I am Kara Tucker with the Kenton County Public Library, and today is Tuesday, July 31st, 2018. I will be interviewing Edward Schroeder at Atria Highland Crossing in Fort Wright, Kentucky. The other person attending the interview is our videographer, Mike Bloom, also of the Kenton County Public Library. This interview is being conducted for the Kenton County Public Library's Veterans History Project in conjunction with the Library of Congress's Veterans History Project. Good afternoon, Mr. Schroeder. Could
Hello.
you please state your full name and your date of birth?
Edward F. Schroeder, 8/2 of 1930.
And what was your branch of service and highest rank?
I was in the Army. I was a private first class, and I didn't get any farther because the government froze all the rates. They wouldn't let you go any higher.
Oh, wow.
They didn't want you to spend any more money, I guess.
And what were your dates of service?
1951 to 1953.
All right, so we're going to do some background biographical questions first to start off. And can you tell me where you were born and what your parents' names were?
I was born in Covington in August 2nd of 1930, and my mother died 6 days after I was born, and my dad didn't remarry until 5 years later. But personally, and then I married, and when I married, 48, I guess. No, I graduated from high school in 48 from Covington Catholic High School, and was very active there, and very active with a lot of the organizations and stuff in my hometown.
Mm-hmm. So you went through school, through high school, you said, and you went to...
Covington Catholic, and
Okay.
I had some college. I didn't completely graduate from any place, but I got as much education as I felt I needed, so
Sure.
I went from there.
Were you active in any athletics or extracurricular
I
activities?
played a lot of baseball, and we had some church leagues, and we won championships a couple of years, so I enjoyed that, although I don't enjoy the Reds today, but
So did you work when you were in high school, or when did you
I
just
worked
do
in
that
a
before?
drugstore over in Cincinnati.
Okay.
And until I graduated, and then I went to work for a car company where they financed a lot of cars and stuff, and they were in downtown Cincinnati.
What was the name of the drugstore?
Oh, Lord.
Oh.
It was right across the street from a beautiful outfit of a lot of women worked there, and we loved that because we saw a lot of women, but
By my math, you were about 11 when World War II broke out, and then it ended when you were about 15 or 16. What was that like living? Obviously, you weren't a child, but you weren't a man yet. You were kind of in between. What was that like living through a war in your formative years?
well, you know, it was scary, but I think I appreciated all the service that the guys gave. We had quite a few people that were killed from this area, and I respected them for that, and I felt that going into service was my duty, so followed through with that for 2 years.
So you enlisted rather than were drafted?
No, I was drafted.
Okay.
And I went from being drafted, I was supposed to go to Fort Knox, and at the time there was a bunch of guys that were there, and the weather had turned so bad, and quite a few of them died at
Oh,
Fort
wow.
Knox. So I had to go to the East Coast to go to school and start my basic training. And then I went from there to Georgia and completed my part of my service, and then I went to the West Coast and finished up my training. But I was quite a while from time I went in until I was finished with basic training.
Do you have any instructors that you remember from basic training, or Anything you had to do that sticks out in your mind still?
No, not so much. We had a gentleman that taught me at Covenant Catholic, was a brother of Mary, and he taught us the Morse code, and he said that'll help your minds and make you develop more. And when I went into service, I had to take testing to place you someplace, and they felt that I was great in knowing the Morse code and stuff, so that's how I ended up in the place I was at. And really, that stuck with me for a long time and got me into the position I was in. I ended up in going to do different training and climbing poles and going all kinds of stuff with stuff. But eventually, when I went overseas, I left from the West Coast, and we went to Japan and then over to Korea. I served in Korea from 51 to 53. And the war ended just about the time I left, but it was not because I did anything to make it end. But it was an interesting thing. Right at that time, I think South Korea really hadn't been developed too much, but the Japanese really developed that country. And it's surprising that it's been split apart so much as it has over the last years or so.
So once you finished training, so you trained, it was in New Jersey, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Started there, and I went to Georgia, and then I went to California to finish my basic.
So they sent you around a few places.
Yeah.
Was it because you were in the Signal Corps, is that correct? Or is that
Yeah.
what you went into?
Signal
Did you
Corps.
have to go to those different places because you were going into that?
I think that's why we moved to get more education and stuff.
What kind of training did you have? And you already knew Morse code, so what other kinds of things did you have to learn to do that?
Well, we went into what they called microwave back that time, and we had to climb high poles and go up into the air and 100 feet up in the air, and I was scared to death. And I lived through it, so. And when I came back and came home for a couple of weeks, and I went back to training, and they were assigning everybody, and a lot of them were going to Germany, and a lot of them were going to Korea, and I was hoping to go to Germany, but ended up in Korea. And but I felt it was a good learning spot for me. I mean, I learned a lot of things and learned how to live with people, and met a lot of guys that I still talk to years later after being in the service. So made a lot of friends.
So you traveled from, it sounds like the West Coast to Korea, but
We went to
Right.
Japan first,
Okay.
and then they took us over to Korea and up to. And when we got over there, we lived in an old college building, and had stoves that heated right in the rooms you were in.
Oh, wow.
But it was, we really had it nice compared to what a lot of people had. Saw no real active service. The only thing that would ever happen at night, once in a while, we had a guy that flew over in a plane. They called him Bed Check Charlie. He would drive over, and we'd all have to go to the roof of the school to try to shoot him and get him down or something. And he would drop a hand grenade and go, and they'd do that every night for
oh my gosh, wow.
for weeks. So that we never got him, so we must not have been too good of a shot.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Wow. That sounds like a memorable experience.
Yeah.
Guess you don't sleep as well when you've got something like that going on.
No. Well, he came at the same time every night. We knew he was coming, but we'd all have to run up to the roof with our rifles and try to shoot him and
At least he
bring
was
him
punctual.
down. Yeah. Yeah. But after I was there for a while, the officer in charge asked if anybody knew how to type. Well, I had taken typing in high school, and I got transferred I said, I raised my hand right away because I didn't want to be with climbing poles and doing that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So I spent most of my time in Korea doing paperwork, sending guys back home and transferring them in, and whatever. And so I really enjoyed that part of it. In fact, a lot of the guys would come in, I'd be transferring them out, and they'd say, well, I don't really want to leave. I want to stay here. I said, well, can I go and you stay here and take my place? They said no. But a lot of them had created friendships in Korea, women friendships, and they wanted to stay there. So, but I only served 2 years, but we had a beautiful place to be in. We had gyms there. We had good food there, and it was really an easy part as far as the service went. I mean, I didn't have any problems at all. We ate well, and a bunch of guys that we were with were very friendly and played a lot of sports. We played basketball and baseball over there too. So.
Sounds like you had some fairly okay downtime then, and nothing too unnerving.
Yeah. Yeah.
The plane, were there any other instances that were kind of unnerving or frightening, or?
No, not really.
That's good.
They kind of scared us when we went from the base of Korea. They were attacking a lot of the trains that were going up there, but we never had a bit of problems. So we were glad to get up there, although the weather was terrible. Weather was compared to probably like Pennsylvania here. It was real cold in the wintertime. At first, we didn't even have to do any guard duty. They were letting the Koreans do that kind of work, but they found a bunch of those guys in the foxhole sleeping, so that changed it over. We had to pick up the guard duty and stuff, but it was, I was young enough, and I think I learned an awful lot being away from home, and it just makes you a little bit more of a man, I think, and I think probably that might help a lot of people in this world today. I think if they were more respectful for the country and whatever by having to live certain lives and so forth. I don't think any service with any particular Army, Navy, or whatever would help to kind of grow you up and make you be a better citizen.
Do you feel like it impacted you in that way?
Yeah. And I, after I got out of the service, my wife and I were going together for almost 5 years before we got married. And she said, you ever going to ask me to get married? So I finally got married, and we ended up with 4 children, and we have 10 grandchildren, and got 6 great-grandchildren with 2 more on the way. So it's a big family.
Oh.
My birthday's coming up this coming week, and we all get together. Family's real close, and they live primarily around this area, and I have one of them visits me every night, and that's really great. A lot of people around here say, how can you stand that? And I said, well, it's the greatest thing in the world, and they get along real well together, and their kids are doing well. And of course, my one son is the head of the library, and he's running a $1 million business, and he couldn't add 2 and 2 and get 4 when he was in grade school. But all of my kids have done well, and I put that on my wife. I was in politics for 45 years, and she pretty well raised the family for me, did a heck of a job, so I appreciate that and miss her more every day.
So when you were in the service, were there still a lot of World War II guys around? Were all those guys retired by then?
Probably most of them. There were still so many were still there because the war didn't end until 53, I think. And
Did people look up to those guys? Did they?
oh yeah,
Okay.
they did a good job with, you know, and they didn't demand stuff that you didn't had to do or nothing else, but you know, you knew you were part of a service, and it should give that time to the country, I think.
So you would have been under MacArthur's command then, at one point, right? In Korea?
The only thing I can remember about who was in charge was that I got to vote for the first time when the heck was elected president. But anyway, I thought I voted first time when I was over there. I voted absentee, and I thought, man, if we get this guy elected, I may be in this army forever. But I was lucky enough that when it stopped, when I got back, of course, we had transportation. We went by ship from Korea back over to the West Coast. It took us 19 days to go over, and when we came back, they told us, you're going back on a ship that set the record. They got back in 9 days. You know how many days it took us? 19 days.
Oh, no.
We had a lot of euchre and whatever on the deck, but it was you know, but you meet a lot of people, you know, and it's very educational, I think.
Were there any close friends that you stayed in touch with after your service that you've
Yeah,
served
we
with?
used to get together every once in a while, but of course now I'm 88 years old, and you know, a lot of them are probably dead and gone, but there's a few that are here with me that I knew from Ludlow and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in politics for 45 years. I was a sheriff, a deputy sheriff, a circuit court clerk who sells the driver's license and handles all the courts. And I ended up the mayor of our city where I was living in Ludlow for 11 years. And loved politics. Everybody said I was crazy, but you know, if you try to get along with people and treat them fair, they may raise hell with you, but at least if you listen to them and give them an answer, they're happy. So it helped me with be able to treat people fairly, and I don't think you can do much more than that.
Do you remember what year you became the sheriff?
Oh, Lord. Well, I don't remember the year, but I know the night that I was elected, I went, my wife and I, we had a big party afterwards at the courthouse. I said, I just did the dumbest thing in the world. She said, what are you talking about? And I said, well, I got elected sheriff. She said, well, you ran for it, you wanted it. And I said, yeah, but 4 years from now, I'll be out of a job, because that time the sheriff could not succeed himself. Now they can succeed for, you know, to run and stay there for years. But I was lucky enough that made connections and got appointed to different jobs and elected to different jobs.
So
But
when you were sheriff, how many people did you have under you? How many deputies were there?
I imagine about 30. And then when I got to be circuit court clerk, I got transferred up to another office in the building, and there were, I had about 36 employees, but 34 of them were women. And dealing with mostly all men and having all women was a different situation, but we all got along well together, and we had good people that worked for me, and they made me look good and got me elected over and over, so that's all I could ask for. Didn't make big money at first, but started like $360 a month, I think, when I first started in government service. The guy that hired me had taught me in high school, and he called me ran into me. I was working at a church picnic, and he came down and asked me if I would go to work for him, and I said, well, I was working at a furniture store where my dad worked on Marx Brothers in Covington. And he said, well, I'll pay you $360 a month, but I'll give you all your gasoline and all stuff for your car. So the first day I walk in there's a big sign on the wall and it says, no outside deputies or inside deputies get the gas. And I went up to him and I said, what the hell are you doing to me? You promised me this. I already quit the other job. You're going to cut something. Well, I'll take care of you, he said. So I did well, salary-wise, but nothing like they make today. But enjoyed every minute of it. I was in it for 45 years.
Did you arrest a lot of bad guys?
Never carried a gun.
Let someone else do it, huh?
Well, I had young kids. I didn't want them, but you can see what's happening with guns today with kids. I didn't want them to be able to get a hold of my gun. I used to put it in my drawer at work and lock it, never take it home with me. It was an enjoyable life, and my wife and I had great years together. Of course, she's been dead now 2 years. So.
How did you meet her? Was it before you were in the military or after? Or?
It was after I was in the military, and a couple of friends of mine introduced me to her, and she lived in Covington. And she finally hooked me after 5 years. She said, when the hell are you going to get married? And I said, well, I guess I better give up my life and get married and get going on with some kids. So that's what we did, but we had a wonderful time together.
All right, question for you. How has military service impacted your feelings about war and the military in general? Kind of encapsulate or as a reflection.
I think we need a strong military, but I think things are out of hand right now. I don't know what's going to happen. There's too many people that are trying to make too much money and get involved in too many things, and especially, of course, I shouldn't mention any particular president, but I think this guy we got in now is worried about how much money he can make and do what he wants to do and when he wants to do it. So that makes the country kind of in tough shape, I think. But that's my own personal opinion.
So when you see what's going on with Korea now, does that bring up any old feelings? Does that disappoint you? How do you feel about?
No, I think it's great if they can get back together. I think that, I don't think the people were really that much different, to tell you the truth. Of course, the guy that's ahead of North Korea, I think he's a wild one. You don't know what he's going to do. And but I guess we've made it through years and years and hundreds of years, so I hope we can work things out and get it back to normal.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to add about your military service or life or something we might have missed or otherwise?
I had 2 years of good times. I mean, it just, and I got to do exactly what I wanted to do, and it helped me when I got out of service to get jobs and stuff like that. And I think it's a good thing for everybody to have that experience, to learn how the rest of the world lives and make it better.
It kind of leads into my next question with your grandkids and great-grandkids. If they we're going to enter military service, what would you pass on to them?
Well, my one grandson is in the Marine Corps now, and of course he loves it, and I think it's good for him. I think it makes your life better. What you learn in the service, I think, carries over into your livelihood and everything. I think it's a good thing.
You think your service kind of helped find yourself, find who you were as a person?
I think so, yeah. I think it would help a lot of kids today. Instead of out shooting somebody, they'd be finding out what life's all about. And,
Well, you told your story about the plane. Was there any other times where you realized that it was serious business and people,
Oh, yeah.
lives were being lost?
Yeah.
Can you share a few of those?
Well, I never had real connections with those. A lot of the guys that were over there that I knew that were working up on the front lines, and they had a lot of stories to tell. And they always wanted me to go up and I was in Seoul, Korea, which was 38 miles from the North Korea. And they always wanted me to go up with them. I said, I'm as far as I want to be. I could still hear the guns, but I don't want to go up any farther.
So they were constant reminders of it being serious business.
Oh, yeah. Yep, I think we lost an awful lot of men there, I think. And I think there's still 25,000 of our troops over there, I think. So that'll be affected by the North and South joining up or not. Not too much trust, I don't think, between the Koreans and the United States, especially the North Koreans. But they seem to be getting together, but I don't, whether you can trust that or not, I don't know.
They've got museums over there of stuff from that era still.
Yeah.
War prizes,
Yeah.
basically. I think they still have a ship that they have over there. Yeah, that is North Korea.
Yeah. Well, I sure appreciate you being here today, and try to keep my son straight, will you?
We'll try.
We'll do our
Appreciate
best.
you coming down.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time. And of course, thank you for your service.
Well, I appreciated it.
Much appreciated.
Helped me a lot.